Welcome back to SplatTactics, sort of. First of all, I'd like to say a very belated thank you for all your support for the first episode way back in 2024. To this day, it's still the most viewed video on this channel. Go Splatoon fans! At the time, I said I would do more Splatoon stuff, and I really did intend to, but then I discovered something. Education, man. It's really hard. Most of my channel is just me being obnoxious about my personal opinions. I don't have to have receipts or anything. And SplatTactics 1 was reflective of that, with a focus on logic and base strategy. But SplatTactics 2 really had me diving deep into the game mechanics, trying to make sure that my understanding of what goes on during a match is actually grounded in fact and not just my assumptions. Like, even if my video doesn't cover those details, I still kinda have to know them in order to make sure that what I am covering is correct. And whenever I felt I didn't know enough about something to justify all my ramblings, I couldn't feel right about having it in the video. So I kept on having to scrap and rewrite and reconstruct the script for months and months on end. Basically, it was a lot tougher than I thought it would be, and it really made me rethink my plans for future Splatoon content, which I'm going to spell out right here and now because why not? So, SplatTactics 2 will cover tactics and strategy in all 4 game modes of the Anarchy battles. The script is very long, but it's done, and I've just started recording it. Hopefully you'll see that video in the near-ish future. SplatTactics 3 is going to be about Salmon Run. I haven't started writing it yet, but I've been making notes, and as someone who loves Salmon Run, I'm looking forward to working on it. I'm a little worried about fitting tactical breakdowns of every Salmon Run stage and boss salmonid into a single video without it being like 5 hours long, but I think if I limit myself and do plenty of edits, I'll probably get it to work. And that is pretty much it. I don't have any plans for Splatoon gameplay content after that. Maybe when Splatoon 4 comes out. Until then, I think these 3.5 videos will be all from me. Of course, if any of you out there really like how I explain things in Splatoon, and you have ideas for other videos that I could do, feel free to comment and let me know. I'll definitely consider it. But for now, I'm going to keep my plans small and manageable. Now, the rest of this video is going to be the sort of informal stuff I felt like I couldn't get away with in the bigger videos. Namely, me rambling about my favorite weapons and how I use them. I'm still going to try to be informative, because that's just my nature, but take 90% of this with a grain of salt. It's just my personal preferences and observations. So let's start with my main, the NZAP 89. This is my baby. It really is my ideal weapon. Fast, lightweight, long range, good ink coverage. It's the perfect gun for any situation. I especially love to use the auto bombs as little scouts, to smoke enemies out of hiding or help me do a pincer maneuver, kinda trap people between a rock and a hard place, you know? In the beginning, I used to call them my familiars. To me, these little guys are basically extra teammates, which really comes in handy when your actual teammates aren't interested in fighting alongside you. This is the primary reason I haven't been able to go back to the 85, which is my original main weapon before the 89 got released. Like, I can't give up my auto bombs. Most of the time they rack up more kills than the players I get matched with. It's just not worth it to leave them behind. And speaking of things being worth it, there is one drawback to using my precious NZAP 89, which has paradoxically resulted in me using it a lot less. I feel like the matchmaking system goes a little crazy whenever I have it on me. Like, because I'm so good with it, it's like the system has to compensate by making sure I have the weakest possible teammates and the strongest possible opponents, making for a lot of really frustrating, boring, one-sided matches that are just not fun to play. As a result, when I queue up by myself, which is the vast majority of the time, I usually don't use it. Now, lately, I've been trying to turn that into an opportunity to train. Like, if I do want to use the NZAP, I'll go into a match not expecting to win and not really caring about what my teammates are doing. Instead, I'll go full assassin mode and just focus on taking down enemies one at a time, to see what I can learn and how I can keep improving, because there's always room to improve, and if the game isn't going to let me win, I might as well use the time wisely. But outside of this kind of training, my main weapon is usually not even part of my rotation. The weapon I do tend to bring into battle, and my secondary main, is the Inkline Tri-Stringer. I don't even really remember when I started using this. I think I was just in a rut and I felt like branching out from the shooter class, and since my strong points are expert aim and predicting enemy movements, I felt like I could be good with a real long-range weapon. Of course, I wasn't ready to give up my mobility with a charger, so I settled on stringers as a nice middle ground, experimented with a few, and eventually landed on the good old Inkline. Its tap shots aren't great for self-defense, but they have pretty good coverage, and even a brief charge will deal decent damage. And it has some truly fantastic range. I kinda love it. Getting kills with the exploding projectiles is always a treat. In general, the Inkline Tri-Stringer makes for an amazing support weapon, when you have a decent team to support, which is a bit of a handicap for me if you know my matchmaking issues. But I think this stringer in particular is tough enough to hold its own even if your team is on the cowardly side. I have successfully played frontline with this weapon. It's definitely doable in a pinch. And speaking of stringers, honorable mention goes to the Order Stringer Replica, which I've been growing very fond of recently. It's lightweight yet powerful, and I like the sub and special combo. Before this, I almost never got to use Killer Whale, and it's really funny how often people get splatted by it, even though I personally find it one of the easier specials to dodge. Anyway, after the Tri-Stringer, I have the surprisingly fun to play Rapid Blaster, and I know exactly why I started using this weapon, because I lost one too many matches where the enemy team just refused to ever die. They'd camp out at our spawn point, my teammates couldn't touch them, I was struggling to flank, and I fantasized about how nice it would be to just instantly obliterate them all. So I went shopping for blasters, and I came out with this one. As someone who's usually more of a sneaky ambusher, I was delighted to find out how much fun it is to be loud and terrifying with a weapon like this. I love being able to scare people away from my teammates and my objectives. I love setting traps with the ink mines for everyone foolish enough to chase after me. And I love being able to just insta-kill enemies when I get sick and tired of them. Like, even if you have taken over 70% of the map, even if all my allies are basically sitting ducks and you can kill them without even trying, you will not be spawn camping and disrespecting us on my watch, not while I have the Rapid Blaster. Because sooner or later, I will find a good vantage point and you can either back off or get blown up. Last, but certainly not least, there's the Bloblobber. Basically the weird middle child of this weapons family. I'm not really sure why I started using this one either, but it may have something to do with the fact that it's a very unique weapon that's interesting to learn. You gotta learn to see the blobs as an extension of yourself, like both a weapon and a sort of energy field, like it's got that quantum physical particle wave duality. You also gotta learn to send the blobs out in a straight line like a pack of attack dogs to insta-swat your opponents before they even know what's happening, which is extremely satisfying and never not fun. If you think the Bloblobber looks interesting, you should try it out, even if you don't normally use sloshers. I don't think you'll regret giving it a shot. And that's pretty much it for the personal arsenal. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching, like, subscribe, whatever, and check out my coffee page gallery to see the finished pictures in these videos. Stay fresh out there!